Today on the podcast, we have Dewayne Poynter, owner of Rib Lickers Barbecue in Glasgow, Kentucky, and the owner of the BBQBroker.com. It's good to have you, Dewayne. Thanks for joining us. How you doing, man?
Hey, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just jump right into it. Let's just, you're a barbecue man. How did it all start? Where did that bug bite you?
Well, I just I grew up in the restaurant business. My mother had a restaurant. We just, it really started a long time ago. All of my grandmother on both sides of my family were really good cooks. And the way that kind of started was we had some bigger farms back in the day, and the only way you could get people to work for you was to be able to cook good, they found. And, because everyone was paying pretty much the same rate, and they bring the old dinner bells and bring everyone in. And those recipes were very important for getting crews to work on your farm. So basically those just passed down. And every time my family got together, we were always working in the kitchen. The guys were working on the grill and back and forth prepping meats. And I'd work with my grandmother, my mother. My mother's a great cook. I mean, she's just she's as Southern as they get, I tell people she can use a stick of butter quicker than a monkey can peel a banana, so it just kind of come natural. I decided I was in the construction business for years, and I said, you know what? I want to do what, I want to do what I love. I want to do what's drawing me to this. So I just started traveling all over the country and going to all these different barbecue places, and I go, all right, and I like what they do because they're killing it here, and they're killing it here, and they're killing it here, and I've got to step my game up here because they're better than me, So I started doing all these little things and taking notes, and basically took about 24 months and fell into my kitchen, and I was just like a mad scientist. I really was, I fell into the kitchen and I worked on it, 10, 12 hours a day, every day. I was totally consumed by it, read, studied, worked on every different detail and technique. And basically right here in my kitchen, behind this computer screen is where I've built every recipe for my restaurant, besides some of the ones that I got that are family recipes. Yeah.
And do you have a lot of family recipes like coming in the restaurant that you use currently? Oh
yeah. Well, we've got, Mama's downtown hash browns. We sell about, when we're rolling, we sell about 500 to 600 pounds of that a week. It's just rock. And, my grandmother Bessie's, she's got some macaroni and cheese that, man, just knock you out. It's real. It's real stuff, with, and all the fine little details, what's the thickness of the noodle? How's it hold? All those things that make that little bit of difference that, maybe other people don't pay attention to, and I wanted, I felt comfortable with cooking a lot of the meats and stuff because I've done that forever. But I wanted, a lot of the restaurants I would go to, they were either really good at one thing and maybe not as strong in another, but, you go to very few restaurants where you got that total package, that you walk in the door and you go, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. First you gotta get them there. You got to draw them in, with the food, you got to get them there. But, it's the whole experience, I think, in a restaurant that makes it special, And the number one thing that helped us grow from a tent, I started selling under a tent, and the number one thing was the food. That's what brings it in, and customer service. People got to know that you're happy for them being there, that you appreciate them, being there. So, once we had a very limited menu because I didn't have a big kitchen and I didn't have a big staff. It was me and a couple of other people. and we were rocking it out. I'd finish up at 2:00 or 3:00 every day, and then I'd fall right back in and start cooking all night again, and all night, and do it over and over and over. And, I was using old stick burner and all that kind of stuff to start off with, and it was killing me. I didn't sleep, I just maybe 3 hours here, a couple hours there. It was crazy, the things that I went through. I had a whole ice machine that I would have to, because I didn't have enough room. We were selling so many things. I didn't have the budget to have all these nice freezers. And, I got a 30-foot walk-in freezer now, and I got another 45-foot, walk-in cooler. And then, for a whole cooler for beers and all this other stuff. But it didn't start that way, I can tell you. Yeah.
They say about the fridge space, no matter how big you get, you're going to fill it. Doesn't matter how much it is. And then restaurant stuff, you're like, oh, I just need a little thing that holds, a little thing. All right, cool. That's $7,000. Oh, for this one? What? Yeah. So there you go, and
man, I jumped from, I had everything on a $20,000 budget when I started off.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
That was my trailer. That was my startup. That was everything. So I worked to build the pit, all the stuff. So, and just you talking about grinding out of the gate, everybody says, well, I'll never forget those days. Man, I never want to go back to those days. I just tell you, because they suck.
So Rusty's getting ready to do this on his own. We've had a couple of restaurant owners in here, and they said that they almost died the first couple of years. You ready to do that, Rusty, for real?
Well, you gotta understand, I grew up in the business too. I'm 21.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Just kidding. I'm 43 years old. I started their business when I was 15 as a dishwasher. I've done every single position there is, and trust me, I know the grind. That's why
it's not the grind. This is your business.
I know,
now.
But that's the thing is like, I know what to expect, and I'm still doing it. That's called insanity. I think that's the actual definition of insanity. I'm like, hey, I'm never going to see my kids again. Let's do it.
Say goodbye.
Oh, the dishwasher called out. No one else can do it. You're dishwashing.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
man, I tell you, that's the way it is. I mean, you've got to do it all, and you can't feel bad that day. You can't go, oh, guess what? I'm just going to, man, I think wore me out. I'm not going to do it this way. It don't work that way, Mm-hmm. They expect you to be there. They have made plans for you to be there, and it just, and then when I got into the restaurant, and I was like, man, things are going to be easier now. I'm not under a tent. I don't have to pack all this stuff inside a building every afternoon to keep some cat from stealing my stuff, And then I had to lock up the pits at night in case I fell asleep so somebody wouldn't slide around and steal some butts out of my smoker. I mean, it's crazy. But, that stuff happens when you're starting off. All these little things. Still the electrical cord that hooks that would turn my rotisserie on my smoker. I gave like $140 for one of those. I don't know how long this thing was, but it's pretty long where I could hook it into a 30-amp deal. Man, I fell asleep for 3 hours and it was gone when I got up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is when you're in a tent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, these copper carps are out all the time, So,
wow.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a struggle to get it going and get it started. And then I fell into building a restaurant that I was going to totally, dedicate to feeding factories, because I got my taste on feeding 2,500 people at a time, 3,000 people at a time, and I was like, man, this is where it's at. All right, this is where the money's at. So I'm going to build a kitchen big enough where I can take care of, there's a need for that around here. All these factories around here, and people just can't take it. They can't feed these places. I got the Corvette Museum. The only place they build Corvettes, they're 25 miles from me, and they were looking for people to cater and, and all these different things and all these other companies that were so close. And I was like, man, I got it. This is what I'm doing. And then I was like, all my other people were like, man, you're not going to sell it to us anymore. You're just going to, you're just going to do this. We got you going here. And I'm like, okay, we're going to open it up and we're going to be open from 10:30 to 2 every day, And man, the lines were just backed up, man. We were like, we've got to do something here. I had 4 picnic tables. My seating capacity was 24.
Oh,
and
geez.
so you just had to, you had to sit wherever you want. What was my dining room when I first built the building is now behind my bar. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I just but I laid it out. I designed the restaurant as it did the building that I built. I designed it where I could add on to it, being in construction for 20 years, prior. I designed it and laid it out on the lots where it would meet all the, restrictions where I could add on to it. And then when we decided to go, all right, go big or go home and drop $1 million into that place, and it scared me to death, and I just couldn't even sleep at night, But we did it, and it's just, man, we have rocked ever since. And it's been scary, not this last year, but the years before, in a town of 17,000, we fed 180+ thousand plates to that place a year,
Wow.
We're open 5 days a week. So they're coming, they were rolling through there. That's a lot of people that we're feeding to. Now take it, that's a lot of catering going out. We do a ton of weddings. Barbecue's gotten really big on the wedding deal. So we had 2 or 3 weddings a week going out. So we had to, and then just having to build your crew. We made it fun. I used to, when people come into the restaurant, I would take their order. I'd be like, hey, how are you? I like to talk to everybody. Everybody wants to, see me, and I want to see them. And it got to the point to where everybody was like, man, can you quit talking to these people? My guys behind me were like, you're slowing us down, dude. We can't move like this. So they took me off the line. I put this guy that's about 5 foot flat on the line. He wore a toboggan summertime. All the time he wears a toboggan, and he'd take your order. He was a fast talker. He was going. We had a cowbell hanging up at the end of the line, and if you ordered a full rack, he's 5 foot, and it was probably about 6.5 foot. He'd jump up and headbutt that cowbell every time somebody would order a full rack.
Wow.
And people loved. They were. It was you get a barbecue and a show every time you come down. But what I wanted to do is show everyone what our kitchen looked like, because it's an awesome kitchen. I mean, it's set up, it's clean. We scrub that thing down every day. We deck scrub it, and we wanted to show a clean operation, and we wanted to show you what was behind the scenes. I'm a neat freak. I'm a germophobic, and I like things shining and slick and clean, and I wanted to, and I had a great crew, and I've constantly been able to keep a great crew. A lot of the people that started with me still with me. So,
wow, everybody loves a good, clean kitchen, and you can see it. That makes you want to come back. Like,
they love it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. We got 15 people in there going as hard as they can go. Now, don't get me wrong. At the beginning of a shift, the floors are slick, everything's good. But I mean, at the end of it, when you're building 100 and some barbecue baked potatoes and you're slicing, we've got a heating hold that's got 6 doors on it that we're constantly pulling stuff from, our old Hickories. And it's got doors on the back, and we're loading it, prepping those, pulling them right out of the smoker because they're staged to come out at different times. And then guys on the meat line, because they're pulling them out and going, and girls too, pulling them out and going as hard as they can go to keep up with it. I mean, we'll feed 2,000 or 3,000 people at a time sometimes, right there running through the restaurant.
Jeez.
It's and we can't seat but a couple of hundred, 200 and something at a time. So, I mean, they're sitting on the back of their trucks. But what it is my restaurant, I run out of money trying to build what I wanted to build because I had to put all these coolers and keg systems and all this other stuff in there. So I had to cut out the air conditioner, and I put an 18-foot ceiling fan in there. I got 24-foot ceilings out there in the dining room. and we wanted to build a stage, and I had to buy all the sound equipment and all the stuff for all the bands and lights and all that stuff, and it ate my air conditioning budget. so I opened the doors up, and it's open air, in there. So
who needs AC when you have a band? Yeah, I was like, who needs AC when you have a band? I want to talk about that too. Yeah.
Ceiling fan in there.
Yeah. But it's not just amazing food at his restaurant. You also have an amazing venue, according to your peers.
Well, the sound quality is great. As a former musician who used to play shows like that, like you sound great. It sounds great in there.
Well, well, thanks. Yeah, we got, we had a local band around here is, there's several different ones, but Blackstone Cherry, they're big and, over in other places. I don't even know. Overseas, they're really big, but, the Kentucky Headhunters, Greg Martin, he's a good friend of mine. He had a little blues shop inside the restaurant there for a while. And, it's like we got a barn kind of built inside the restaurant. And then over on the other corner, we have a semi cut off and put on the wall, and then the fireplace goes through the front grill. It's constantly burning all the time on the bumper, and it's always lit up. And it's got the big stacks, and it says big rig stage up there, and it's and we've had some unbelievable. We get a lot of our talent from Nashville because we're just 67 miles from
Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no shortage of bands then, right?
No, the MCA records come up and, they'll book, and so a lot of times they don't even charge us for these bands that they want to bring in here. Mm-hmm. And because they want to come up and get out of the Nashville scene, and they're afraid somebody else is going to sneak on their prey or whatever. And, they'll bring them in and listen. They'll set the bands up and play, and they'll play for 3 hours and won't charge us sometimes.
Oh, cool.
Just to be able to hear them because they like the sound at our place too. We got a really good sound system. But the Headhunter sound guy, set all that up. He come in and did all these readings, and we had to put all this barnwood on the side to keep it, the sound from bouncing and whatever, and figure all that stuff out for a great sound. And that's how we got some really good bands in there. That's how we got a second best live music venue in the state.
Oh, cool.
It's just it's a fun place to come, man. If you've never been there, it's hopping.
Man, this sounds fun. Is. Good food, good music. Can't go wrong.
Yeah. Cold beer.
Yeah. There it is.
Right? It's a trifecta of life.
Yep.
It's where you never want to leave.
Right?
Yeah. So you mentioned, let's kind of walk it back a little bit. You mentioned that you started with a stick burner. And you moved to Old Hickory's, and I know you have one at your house, so you cook on at home too.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so is there a huge difference? Did you see a big difference when you're cooking on your stick burner and jump into Old Hickory's? What was that difference like? Because a lot of people, they're afraid to make that jump. It's usually vice versa. It's usually, okay, I'm going to go for a stick burner, I'm going to make it this way. So what is your opinion on the two? Because in my opinion, they're pretty extreme. Not as extreme as a pellet cooker, but they're up there.
Well, this is one thing. Okay. If you don't want another life, then you can burn all the, if you want a life besides what you're doing every single day, and you want to, if you want to be able to keep up with what you're doing, if you're good at what you do, then people are going to come, and they're going to come and, and the numbers will blow your mind. Okay. So what you could normally do on a stick burner, is great, but you've got to have somebody to man it as much as you have to cook all the time. Okay. And it's just kind of like anything else. These competition guys, they want to use stick burners forever, and stick burners, hey, you don't know hey. And then these pellet grills come out, and they go, man, he just beat me with a pellet grill. I mean,
Right.
you know, whatever. So, you know, you got to get over it. I mean, they're winning competitions with these pellet grills, you know, but what's so good about an old Hickory is that I could load 750 pounds in two different smokers, 1,450 pounds of meat every single night. Okay. And when I leave, I don't have to worry about one single thing. And I know when I get there in the morning, from the time that I started it to the time that I get back there in the morning, it's going to be perfect when I want it to be, because I've done it so much. I know that it's set at a perfect time. You know, I'll load, you know, we'll load all this stuff, and there's a process that you have to figure out that works for you and based off your volume and what equipment you've got to work with. Now, if I'm going to feed 100 people a day, then a stick burner would be fine. You know, I can go out there and throw wood in it. We put wood in ours all day. No, it's still a stick burner. It's just controlled environment for a stick burner, you know, and you don't have to worry about, they just don't break down. I mean, they're indestructible. They're just like the tank of, I tell you what, this is how I feel about it. If I had to use a stick burner, I would not be in the barbecue business. Okay.
I don't think you could. Like, how would you be able to? Well, like the numbers that you said you're pulling through, it just is not physical. It's not, there's no physics that makes sense for that. There's no math that you can make sense with that. You would have to be crazy.
But, you know, we get a ton of people that come up through Nashville. We feed a ton of people out of that Nashville market that drive up. One, because, you know, they can be here in an hour, you know, and we get a lot of people from the Louisville, you know, you can be there in an hour and 20 minutes, but there's so many rural areas around us that there's really not a whole lot going on. So Glasgow's kind of, and then we have the lake that kind of draws everyone to us. Okay. We're right here on Barren River Lake. So it's a beautiful lake here. So, it's in the middle of nowhere, but a lot of people like to come to nowhere, you know? So, that's all I know to tell you. But you know, it's nothing fancy. My restaurant's nothing fancy at all, but it's clean. We serve the best food that we can, and we let you know that we appreciate you when you get there. You know, that's it. That's the key 3 components. You know? Well,
you know, I cooked on 100 things, and, you know, I had my opinions too. And I went and Pitmastered at a place locally, and they had gas assist, and I poo-pooed it. I was like, oh crap, how am I going to work with this? Cooked my first brisket, cut into it, and went, oh my God, this is really good. I was blown away. I was like, this is really good brisket. I was shocked. And then the wood they put, we used just white oak, you know. It had a lot of smoke flavor to it. It tasted really good.
Yeah. You can throw as much smoke on there as you want. Yeah. You know, you can over smoke it just as much as you want to in a stick burner. You know, and you can throw it to it. If you know how to use one of these old Hickories, you can't tell the difference. You know, I mean, you really can't. You know, they have to feel comfortable about what they're doing and their product. And I know Aaron Franklin and those guys, they've got a technique that works for them. And hey, I'm not knocking what they do. They do what they do and they knock it out of the park. But, you know, for me, I had to figure out what worked for me, and who helped me find out how that worked was Mike Mills. You know, I know how to cook. I just didn't know how to cook for the masses. You know, I didn't know how to cook a lot of product good. You know, I knew how to cook a little bit of product pretty good, you know, but I didn't know how to cook a lot good. And I didn't know how to hold a lot good and be able to balance that to where, you know, just because you weren't there early that day, you didn't get my best product. Okay. If you got there at 2 o'clock, or if you got there at 3 o'clock, or if you got there at 5, 6, all the way up till 10 o'clock at night, I wanted you to have the same experience as that guy that got there at 10:30 that morning, you know? Well, how do I do that? How do I pull that off? Well, for a few hundred people, it doesn't cost a lot, but for hundreds of thousands of people that come through your restaurant, you got to spend about $1 million to get going.
I bet.
Right.
And
Because,
by the way, just
you know,
half of that is one star burner. That's it. Just so $500 million is just one little burner.
500 million. All right.
You have no idea. When you're going through
yeah.
Wasserstrom, you're like, oh my God, I'm in the wrong business. I need to be making steam hold tables.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I'm good.
I've got 9 of them. Okay. I've got 9 of those, what do you call CVAPs?
CVAPs,
Okay.
yeah. And there's like 12 grand each.
I've got 4 of them out back that are just sitting there waiting for their time to play.
Hey, I'll come take one off your hands.
They're that important, for my operation. If one goes down, we don't try to figure it out. We roll it out, roll it to the back, and then we roll in another one and have it ready to go. I mean, it's that key. And that the first time that I tried to run with just enough equipment to make it work, man, I shot myself in the foot. Because it was during a rush and we had a line all the way around the building and our heating hole broke down on it. Just quit working at about like 3:00 that day.
Dang.
So I'm sitting there, we're throwing bricks in our ovens in the back and warming them up on flat pans and rolling them in those heating holes and swapping them. They're wrapped in aluminum foil trying to keep stuff warm.
Like it's a camera now.
Yeah. Oh, we already had all those full. We had those just stacked full. But yeah, and then we had and then we had the pits going. It's just, but the difference between a good restaurant and a bad, a normal, just whatever average restaurant is when they're prepared to take those, when you're rocking and you have a mistake and if something happens, you got to get around it. It's kind of like a competition,
Yeah.
You've got to figure out a way to finish the deal and get to where you want to be,
Yep.
So
see, this is why I don't do the restaurant stuff there, Rusty. My when I cook, if I need to keep something warm, I just push my keep warm setting on my grill and I'm good.
That's the same in the restaurant. Though. He's putting the CVAPs.
I know. I don't want any part of that.
Well,
apparently, at 12 racks a piece, I'm good.
Well, I take those CVAPs and I'd roll them into factories. And then if we're going to feed a bunch of people, I'd take a couple of those and we would roll those in. I even had a couple of factories that would put me the right breakers in so I could roll them into wherever we were going to serve. And I'd roll those right out of our van, right into those factories, and I'd plug those babies up. And I'm like, man, we're good now.
Wow.
We're good.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
And we'd roll them in, and then we just start stacking because you can hold 16 pans in each one of those things, or maybe it's more than that. I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's about, I don't know. I can't even remember. Haven't done that in a while, but I knew all the numbers that they would hold.
Yeah, people for that now.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a 4-year-old now.
Wow.
So it's I decided that I needed to spend time with my little girl while I could, because I'm not going to get that opportunity again. So I'm enjoying every minute I get to spend with her.
Yeah. Then that's hard to do. To have
it's hard to
balance.
do in the restaurant business, but I've got a great crew. I really do have a really great crew, and I'm blessed because if you don't have it, you can't do it by yourself.
Nope.
A lot of restaurateurs will say, well, like, oh, this and this is terrible. I'm like, well, it all depends on who you have working with you, and how you treat those people, and how you treat them.
No one pays more than I do to my people. Okay. I am the highest paying restaurant probably in Kentucky. Okay. And why? Because those people, I don't have to retrain. I don't have to, I know who they are. I pay them well. I take care of them. We passed out, even this year, we passed out $15,000 in Christmas presents.
Wow.
So, I mean, we take care of our people, so they're with it. They love it. The people that I have love our customers like I do. And they love the whole, how many people are we going to feed today? Even though our restaurant, our doors aren't open, to the dining room, and they haven't been since this last March, because the way my restaurant's set up, you have to walk through my restaurant. and you have to come in my kitchen and you're just all over each other in there until it gets back to 100%. I can't do it. I can't take a chance on getting my people sick, or my customers. It's just not a good idea. I mean, they can get to pick whether they want to go into a restaurant or not. But for me, we have been so lucky to be really busy through our pickup. People they keep supporting us, and people even support us to help feed people that have had some tough times through this, all this COVID stuff. It's the first time that I've ever had people call me that say, I can't feed my family, and I know and I don't mean to do this. I was like, hey, that's all, you don't have to say anything else. You just tell me how many meals you need and I'll figure it out. You put that on me. That's my job. I'm in the food business. Mm-hmm. Let me figure out where to get the help. Don't you worry about it. And so we started helping some people, and then there was some others that we started working with, and we started looking for people that could use the help, and then I got into some organizations that were screening some of these people and helping the right people. And man, we fed 5,000 meals last year to people that, they needed it. They really did need the help, because they were caught between not being able to get some assistance. They were in the restaurant business, other restaurants, and they weren't getting any work. And a lot of people didn't realize that. So, it's just, we kind of helped give back to our community, and people have supported us through this whole deal. It's been really cool.
That's really cool. Look at it. It gave me chills. That story gave me chills, bro. That made me, that's awesome.
You got the goose pimples?
Yeah, dude, for real. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, the way I look at it, is it's if you need gas, if you're out of gas, you can't afford your gas, the guy's got a gas pump. What I'm saying? Yeah. But if you're hungry and maybe you can't feed yourself, and you realize that, we feed a lot of people, then we're set up for feeding a lot of people, and we're not feeding that many people like we used to. We're just not doing, our crew's not as big as it used to. But, we don't have all everything. We got a pizza place inside too. And that's another thing that I added, is steel stone pizza down on the floor. We got a big, pizza oven down there that's come from Italy. It was built in Italy and brought over here, and it turns, and we cook pizzas down on the floor. Huh. Not everyone wants barbecue. You might have a truckload and maybe not everybody wants it. Kids, sometimes they want barbecue and sometimes they don't, I started mine off in the bottle with barbecue sauce.
Do you know who doesn't want? Who doesn't want barbecue, Dewayne?
Who's that?
Communists.
So, wow. Well, we have barbecue pizzas. We put barbecue. We have barbecue pizzas. We have whatever. But we have we sell a ton of pizzas too. That's down on the floor. It's like like the barn I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It used to be a gift shop, and then we started selling a whole lot more pizzas than we did shirts, and we sell shirts through the bars now.
Nice. Wow, you got a lot going on there. I saw your menu and it was huge. I'm like, how do they pull this off? That's great.
Man, I tell you, it's for us, what we do is, if you can kind of look at our menu, everything's kind of tied to everything. It's but we have a huge refrigerator. And we were able to load that thing up 2-3 times a week, and we dump it. And then on Sunday, when we're closed on Saturday night, it's like a cave in there. Like, hello. And then they come in on Sundays and Mondays, and the trucks come in, they fill them back up, all the time. So it's our restaurant is never shut down. It's open 7 days a week, but we're only open 5 days a week to the public.
Right.
It takes us 2 days to catch up, so.
Because you got to watch football on Sunday.
When we're really rolling. Yeah.
So let's walk back before you guys started all this restaurant stuff. Let's talk to the person who doesn't own a restaurant and they're just cooking in their backyard. I know you do. You had a little YouTube thing going for a minute, and you did some like pork steaks and things like that. What's something you like to cook outside the restaurant that you just what's your go-to? Like, hey man, you have one thing to cook. What's that going to be?
Man, I cook a lot of steaks. I like cooking ribeyes. I cook a lot of ribeyes. I get into this SDA when I can, you know.
Yeah.
I love doing that. When I can go. My problem is I do a lot of other functions, you know, as far as teaching people how to cook and how to cook for restaurants and helping them with menus and stuff like that, besides my restaurant. So, I don't get to compete like I want to. Hopefully one day I'm looking for that, but, I get to go to some of the bigger competitions, and I've been real lucky when I've got to do that. But I just don't get to go and hit it like I'd love to, you know, because there's so many other things that I have to do. Yeah.
So when you're cooking at home, you use you're very fond of PKs. And you know, you have a series out there where you kind of hang out with Johnny Joseph, which is super cool. We've had him on the podcast before, and the guy's just a wealth of knowledge. But that's SCA, which is kind of crazy. But what are you cooking at home? Like, how are you cooking your steak? You're using your PK. What can you tell someone like, I want to cook a steak and I've never really done it on a PK before? How do you do it?
Well, number one thing you got to have to go with a PK is grill grates. You know, if you're going to get into the competition side of it, regardless, you know, we cook a lot of sliced shoulder around here. This is a region where, you know, if you come to our place in our region, you're going to get sliced shoulder. That's where we take a frozen butt. We take it to the butcher shop. We cut it 3/16 thick to a 1/4 inch thick, you know, and then we put it on the grill and we grill it. Well, you know, there's a lot of fat in pork. So, when I found the grill grates, man, my life changed because, you know, you don't have all that. You know, we had to have a bag of baking soda on both sides of the grill all the time because we're cooking, you know, 3,000 pounds of sliced shoulder through a grill that's got grease running through it all the time. It's a constant flow. So when I got those grill grates, I can drive that grease where I want it to go. And it helped us on our flare-ups and all that stuff. But for at home, my number one thing would be grill grates. You got to have some grill grates to go on a PK, you know. I mean, and then, you know, you got to find the temperature if you're trying to get those grill marks, you know. I like about 625 to 645 for the perfect grill. You know, it's kind of funny. Last year, Johnny, I went down to the shed. We went down to the shed to that cook-off down there, and Johnny ended up winning the whole thing. And I don't go to an event now that I don't take Olivia with. She's my little, you know, she was 3 years old then, but she went with me and she sold gravel out of the parking lot to all the competitors all week. They were Lucky Rocks. So she was in the back of my F-250 selling rocks to all Lucky Rocks to everybody. and Johnny, I guarantee if he goes to a competition right now, he's got those Lucky Rocks in his pocket.
Man, you just put that on record. Brad's going to come trying to collect. Taking his rocks.
I know, he was. He gave him one. His payoff. Yeah. So we were down there. I ended up getting a 4th place finish out of 2. I don't know. It was a couple hundred down there. And then we walked on the ribs with a knife. A buddy of mine cooked Rob Nelson cooked some ribs for us. And then we did well on the Bloody Mary. We got like 10th. We didn't realize we got 10th until we were on the truck coming back home on in. We got a ticket that we were in the back of the crowd and couldn't hear anything. So, but yeah, Johnny's really good, and Johnny's taught me some things about cooking the steak. You know,
yeah,
it's what I do is when I get into the competition side, it's kind of like what I've done with the restaurant. Science doesn't lie. Okay, a lot of research, a lot of stuff done, and I'm big into it. Everything that I cook, I make notes. I got a book for everything. I got a rib book. I got a brisket book. I got a chicken book. I got everything. I got a hog book. You know, there's not pretty much anything that a hog can do that's, you know, during a cook that I don't know what it's going to do before it does it, you know, just because I've documented so many. And I got probes hanging out of one every way. So, you know, if you're watching your temp and you're watching your heat and you're controlling and, you know, I want to know what my start temp is on the steak when I start cooking it. You know, most people don't think about that, but I want to know. I want to keep everything consistent as I can. I want that steak to be it's close to 70 degrees as it can be when I put it on the, somewhere in there, 68 to 70 degrees before I put it on the grill. That way I know where I'm starting with all my timelines and everything balances well. I know how it cooks, There's a lot of things that you can't control, but as many things as you can control in any kind of cook, those things make a difference. I know I want a hog to, when it comes in, I want it about 40 degrees before I put it on the pit. I know where it starts and I know where I've got to finish and I know how long it takes to cook per pound. Those are just the variables that maybe other people don't think about, but I kind of analyze every single thing that I do. And it's helped me do well when I do get in the competition,
Yeah.
And I take a lot of notes. I watch a lot of people cook and I've been fortunate enough to cook around some really good ones,
Right.
So,
are you wanting to get into that? So some people that helped you move forward in your cooking career?
Do I want to get into what now?
Just some people that helped you, move forward. Like you brought up Johnny Joseph, and is there?
Oh yeah. Johnny Joseph. Pat Burke, Mike Mills. Mike's helped me tremendously. He's taught me so many things. There's just all the little things that you wouldn't even think about in a competition that the old guys have taught me. It's just even down to the color of the tent that you're going to do your presentation in, okay, makes a difference of what the meat's going to look like to the judges. You see what I'm saying? Just all those little bitty things when the sunlight comes through the tent that day. How's it going to make the tent look? How's it going to make the meat look? And they've learned these things through years and years and years of competition that you go, wow, that's a good idea, And then they're talking about, how you move heat around and all these different things to balance, to get everything to balance. And it's an unbelievable amount of knowledge. And then, Byron Mixon, he's taught me a lot, This is how it all came down. Mike Mills and Pat Burke were the winningest team ever, I guess. I don't know. You can look this up. They're they won more competitions, I think, than anybody did over a 2-year span. I think it was like, I don't know what the numbers are. I hate to pitch it out there, but it's like 170 competitions in 2 years or something like that. And they won out of 190. I don't know. It was nuts. I can't believe you can look that up, but there was a lot and they were well respected. But I didn't realize this, but until years later. But Pat helped Myron get going. Okay, Mike helped me get going. And I didn't realize all that whole wheel connected until I was down at Myron's place, and he was talking about Pat Burke, and I was like, "What? He's talking what? It just never." And then it all came together, Yeah. So yeah, I learned a lot from, who's helped me more than anybody is Pat Burke and Mike Mills, old school guys that I was able to basically bring technology of today into their old school thinking. Okay. Of how you brought old school and new school together, basically. And when I was able to show Mike how that hog was doing through all these probes, it was hanging out in every different direction. I was able to blow his mind. Kind of like you are with smart homes and turning lights on in your house today.
Right.
When your grandparents come over, you're like, you're magic. You tell Alexa to turn your lights on. So it's kind of like the same thing with the technology of cooking today. And if you're using all these things to your advantage, yeah, that's what you got to do. If you're not using a thermopen, man, I got one in both hands a lot of times. I'm constantly, using temp is everything as far as where you're going to peak on temperatures from chicken to all of it. And the more you monitor that and follow it, the better you're going to turn out better product.
What's something that maybe Pat or Mike taught you, even Myron, that you went, wow, and it just kind of really changed the game for you maybe, or something that was really profound as far as cooking goes?
Well, there are so many of them, but the competition ones, I want to kind of hold on to because I want to win.
Yeah,
I want to use some of
course.
those. But as far as the restaurant, Mike told me, he said, you've got to go with Old Hickory. You've got to do this. Doing what you're doing in the volumes that you're going to be carrying through, you've got to do this. And this is how you use it. Okay. So he taught me how to use that. He told me, you know, basically what Mike always told me, he always told me, you've got to figure out what works for you. Okay. So I had to come up with a process, and I learned this process because I didn't have the refrigeration. I didn't have all the things that I needed when I first started to build a good product, you know? So I had to figure out, I could only let some of my products cook in the smoker for as long as I wanted to smoke them. Okay. And then I had to get them out of that because I had to get other products in there to smoke them. Okay. Because after I smoke them from that temperature, I'm not using smoke. Okay. I'm maintaining a temperature. You see what I'm saying? And once you get so much smoke on there, you know, you got to stop, and then you're just maintaining temperature. So it would teach me how to use my smoker to put more volume through, where I didn't have to spend another $25,000 or $30,000 on another Old Hickory because I couldn't afford it, to get my volume where I needed to balance it, you know. And so they were only getting so much bathing time inside the Old Hickory, and then they had to go over to these CVAPs where I could hold that temperature and carry them to finish to where I could finish that product. Does that make sense?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something interesting is though I get this question all the time. When whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like when it's done and they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, there's a point where smoke is no longer really penetrating. It always is to a degree, but for 95% of it, it's no longer getting in. And you got to know when that is to wrap, because there is no 2 hours. There's no 3, 2, 1. That doesn't exist. Yeah. It's like, when is it done? When do you wrap it? You know, and it's like what, you know, the normal people would do is you grab your finger and you kind of scrape it, and when little to none come off, that's where I pull it. You know? Well,
it depends. For me, it depends on what wood I'm using. Okay. I can use more wood of fruit woods than I can, some others. Nut woods are, they penetrate faster. They get stronger faster. But like if I'm going to use hickory or something like that, that's stronger, more robust, then it doesn't take long. If you're going to use a mesquite or something like that, if you're cooking with mesquite, man, you got to get it in and get it out.
Yes. That's like a hot oven.
And all that depends on, your flavor profile and what you're building to. But, for me, it's usually about 6 hours because I use a lot of cherry. I love cherry and applewood, and Mike kind of got me on that applewood because, there's a lot of orchards in Murfreesboro, where he's from. So he was using a lot of apples, a lot of applewood, and then I learned some tricks from those guys from, sometimes they go out and some of these different people that are in these competitions, they'll go out and they'll break these apple trees, on different arms or different fruit woods, and they'll break them and it'll damage it. And what happens to a tree when you bust it, but it doesn't, but you don't break it all the way off. You just don't go out and cut it off. What it does is it draws that sap to that place. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
You see what I'm saying? Draws the sap into that injured part of the tree that maybe you wouldn't have ever gotten. But if you're ever able to use that for a competition, it might make your stuff taste better. Who knows?
Right.
It's just all those, don't go out and just cut it off and use, and then there's other people, there was some, Mike had some apples with some little apples hanging off some, in a competition that he won sometime. Had some little green apples still left on it. Well, everyone thought that he was using green apples to throw it in there to make it taste better. Well, it just happened to be that there was some on there, but somebody looked at the wood pile, you know, they were, they thought that, hey, that's an advantage that he had.
Throw little apples in there, man.
So there's someone to this day teaching a class of how to throw apples in because that's what works.
Exactly.
And little does he know, it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't make a difference. But I mean, there's all kinds of little tricks to the trade that you pick up on from listening to these old guys, and that's just things that you think, well, you know, that'll work. I just never thought about that. You know, never got that. You know, when they started, they had to come up with ways that made them, you know, different from everyone else. You know, and just like people do today. You know, it's not as much as it is, I think, today, because everybody's, you know, I've been judging the jack for 4 years now. You know, that's one of the best, I don't know if there's a better event to judge than the jack. And it's so hard to get in. And I feel so privileged to be able to, you know, such an honor to be able to judge that competition, you know. And it has taught me so much from you know, if I ever be able to just 100% get into the competition world, I was like, man, you know, these guys are good. You know, the best of the best are there. You know, they're good. And they're all trying to hit that point, you know, that tenderness, all that stuff. And when you've got that many teams that have won so many competitions that are that good, you know, little bitty things separate those, you know, and those you'd think you wouldn't think that would be so defined, but when you're sitting there and you're eating those, you know, you're tasting these things and you're tasting one after the other, and you go, wow, that's it's got to give you something that goes, man, that flavor I haven't had, you know, that's special, you know.
Yeah.
And they got their tenderness right, and their presentation is good. Man, this is it, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know when you run across it, when you know, it's just.
I was so excited to go to the Jack, and I'm not excited anymore because we were killing it, and we went to the Kansas City Invitational. And you're right, man. It was 100 of the best teams, you know, in the United States at the time. And, you know, it was fractions, man. It was crazy. You would get a score there that would just absolutely demolish in any other competition, and you're 50th place, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like, you're splitting hairs there. I'm a judge too, and I couldn't imagine judging the Jack. First of all, it'd be the greatest thing ever. Secondly, I would just feel so, I don't know, they're all nines? Are they all nines?
Man, it's so much, you know, in the dessert category there. When you're getting, you're on, you know, in all the open, I mean, there's so many different ones, but, you know, you're not just getting one from every state. You're getting from all over the world, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for me to pick up on every now and then. I get a hold of something that's totally not my flavor, you know. I'm like, man, that's got to be from somewhere I don't even know where this is from, because that flavor profile's not working for me, you know. But and those are easy, you know. You gotta, you know, and that's part of where you're cooking. It's if you're catering to a Southern judge, you better be cooking Southern cuisine. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. These are Southern fried ribs we're serving you. So as someone who might be going to the Jack this year, let's talk about judging for a second. What are you looking for, Dewayne?
Man, I'm telling you,
good food.
You are. I mean, when it comes to that, everyone's box is so perfect. It's so beautiful, you know. It comes down to, I mean, it's just, man, I give so many great scores. I mean, I really do. You know, there's some people that go, well, I'm going to give a 7, or I'm going to give, I mean, man, you're just taking them out of the competition. That's not what it's about. You know, for me, that's my thought on it. There's so many good, you'll get one that's dry, and it'll be, you know, like you'll bite into a chicken, you'll go, man, they overcooked it. You know, they know it before they turn it in. You know it, you know, it's obvious, you know. But if you bite into a chicken and you know, it's just got all the points that just are good to you, what you think is great barbecue, then, man, you got to score those guys good, you know. I mean, I put a lot of good scores on the table because there's a lot of good product that's put right in front of you. You know, rarely do you have one. There are so many beautiful boxes where nothing's out of place and everything's just perfect. You know, the you know, if they're laying out brisket, the gap there's perfectly. You know, it fits in the box perfect. Everything's just, you know, beautiful. And then when you get it, I mean, it's got the perfect, everything's just, you know, rarely you'll get one where it falls apart when when you pull a piece of brisket out. But if it does fall apart, you know, what do? You're going to knock this guy. It's the best tasting stuff you've ever had, you know, man. I mean, you know, there's, you know, it's when you get to that level, it's really hard for me as being, you know, trying to cook and get as technical as I can about, you know, cooking myself. How it's really hard for me to knock somebody's teeth out with a low score. Right. You know, I guess that's what it is.
And to consider this, it's like, you know, you cook 40 competitions a year, right? You're cooking the Royal, you're cooking the Invitational, the KCBS Invitational, you're cooking the Invitational for the Royal and the Open, and you're going to all these great contests around the entire United States. Yeah. And all of those mean something to these cooks. But I'm telling you, man, all of these cooks who, you know, kind of just go cook and like, okay, cool, I won or I didn't. When they go to the Jack, man, it's like they're going to kindergarten. You know, it's like, that's the one that matters to them. And these guys put so much work into getting there, you know. You have to win 7 competitions to get in just outright, you know, and others just get a little bit lucky. Like we might get lucky, but a lot of these guys are 7 and in, you know, and that's, gosh, you know how hard that is, you know, and for someone at the Jack to give a 7 just because I don't even know what to say about that. You know, I don't even know what to begin there.
You better be careful, Rusty. You might catch a 7 on
I would feel that entire judge's tent full of uppercuts. If I was in there and someone gave a 7, I'd be like, what's you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, you got to understand there's people in there that it's just like any other, you know, contest you go to, but you know, they're trying to get the best judges that they possibly can. And I'm sure, but you know, some of them just are too critical, you know, I think, you know, maybe, you know, and most of the ones that are okay, this is the way I see it. If they're cooks, if they are cooks themselves, they're not as critical. Okay. And sometimes they are, you know, they think that maybe they're the best. And if it's not like this, then they're going, hey, yeah, this guy gets a 7. I'm going to take it. He doesn't even need to be here, you know. You know, if you left a chicken feather on there, I'm going to give you a 7, you know. But you know, I think some of the people that are there, maybe, that haven't cooked, you know, that much, that doesn't, you know, really get into the technical aspects of the cooking side and maybe not know as much as some of maybe the others. They're going like, man, that's other cats was a whole lot better. You're not supposed to be doing that. You know, you're not supposed to be comparing it with somebody else's, you know, with that. You're just supposed to be looking at that product and you've got to think in your mind, what do they deserve here? I mean, they've worked their ass off to get here, you know, and it's, I don't know. I just look at it differently, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I used to work with like certain, you know, there's those people like, well, I never give 100% on this because no one ever this and that. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There are people that do it.
I give more perfect scores than I do anything, I guess, when I'm at the Jack, you know, but, because they're good. I mean, you know, they're doing a great job, you know?
Yep. So I heard that there's a way to become a champion from like your 2 mentors, and there's a little thing that they carried on their necklace. There's a special coin, right? You got to get your hands on this coin, Rusty, and you'll win everything.
Okay, send it to me.
That's the problem is nobody can find the coin.
there was a back when Mike and Pat first went to Memphis in May. John Phelps, I'm pretty sure it's his name. John Phelps gave gave Mike and Pat a silver dollar. Basically, it was a coin, and I sent you a picture of that coin. And Mike wore it around his neck for years, and Pat's packed one in his pocket because, you know, and he told him, he said, at least you won't leave this competition with nothing, you know, because John, he ran the National Barbecue News, or had just started. That was his first year when he gave him that coin. I think was his first year to start the National Barbecue News. Kel Phelps, his son has it now, which is over the National Barbecue News. But long story short, I've done some research and trying to find a coin like what Mike's got and what Pat's was worn out because he's packed it in his pocket all these years. You can't even tell what it is, you know. But Mike put it in a whatever, a deal that wore it around his neck, and there's a picture of it, and I gave it to you, and I'm, you know, man, I'd love to have one, you know. And so I called up Kel, and I was like, what's the story on this thing? And he was like, yeah, I do know what that is, and I do know the story on that silver coin. He said basically when we sold our what do they call those? Their plates for the newspaper. They were aluminum plates that they made the newspapers with, and the recycling company that would come and pick up their plates would pay them in these coins, and it was some kind of special edition coin, and they would pay them in those coins. And so Kel's father had some of those coins with him, and there was one place to get water at Memphis in May, and Mike went there and to get some water, and he met John, which this was going to be their last year at Memphis in May. And I think Mike asked him, hey, can you tell me anything about this competition? And I don't know what all the words were said, but anyway, Mike and Pat must have made an impression on him because he gave them both a silver coin, you know.
Cool.
And so they took it, and they've had it, and they won like what 4 championships right after that with it. So that coin was on Mike's neck since 1989. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So a winning coin is what you need.
No, I think I'm going to go the route of the gravel.
Oh, the gravel, the pebble.
You need to buy a pebble. I think I'm going to take a couple handfuls of gravel. That's there you go.
I've got one right here. Well, you know, and they give the judges these nuts at you know.
Oh, cool. Hell yeah.
You see that? I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's way cool.
But it's a tree that's grown right there at the jack. And, you know, you got these, they hand these out to you every year, and it's got the little stamp on it. Wow. And it's a little cool little token. So I got a nut, you know. And I've got a rock too. But my rock's in my hog box. It's where all my, I take competitions. I call it my hog box. But yeah.
That's awesome.
She gave me a lucky rock too, so I leave that in there all the time.
Yeah. But, hey, Rusty, did you notice when he was showing us that nut? Did you see what was on his finger?
I did.
That thing is huge. Look, bring your hand back up. Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I don't know if I can. That might be better. I don't know.
Yep. There it is.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So that you got that because you, well, I don't know. Should we spoil it for everyone? The all night barbecue fight on the cooking channel, if I recall. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. The cooking channel.
Yeah. So you were a contest on that, and how that broke down basically is you had a contest now with 4 people, and you guys cooked literally all this meat, and it was literally a whole cook. I mean, from get to end, you know, and it was all night long. So, and you ended up winning it.
Yeah.
Right? That experience, how was that?
Man, it was, you know, it had so many interviews to get through to go to that. And they want to know what you cooked and, you know, all this. They did background checks on you before I felt like I was being investigated by the CIA or something, you know. Because they've been following me, and I've been telling me things that I've done that I didn't even realize anybody knew, you know. But anyway, they wanted me to compete in this competition, and they had Michael Character was on there. He'd been on several other Pitmaster shows,
old school Pitmaster schools, yeah.
Yeah, and then Stephanie Wilson, she had won. She come in second, I think, on the Chopped, where she had beat 18 other states or something. I don't know what it was, but it got down to her and this final guy from Memphis, and but anyway, she was on the show, and then Logan Williams from Arkansas in that Memphis area, and so we didn't know I didn't know any of them. I didn't know anybody when I got there, but I knew I had to pull my 28-foot trailer with a F-250 straight through Manhattan, and I was by myself.
Oh my gosh!
And it took me 18 and a half hours. Well, it took me like 14 hours to get within 75 miles of there. Okay. It took me like 14 hours to get within 75 miles. And then that last 75 miles took me 4.5 hours to get through. Well, number one, when you've got a Southern guy with a trailer trying to go through a tunnel, I mean, man, I thought I was going to have a body cavity. They were searching me all over, and so, but they were really good to me. I after I told them that I knew Billy Durney, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we know Billy." They were just throwing the accent to me. I was trying to go through a bridge that I wasn't supposed to go through, and so they helped me. They didn't tell me I was running through tolls I had no idea that I was supposed to pay. I was following the GPS. I didn't know you had to stop when you wanted to. I thought if you could go, you just kept trucking. So anyway, so if there was a lane open, I took it and I was hitting it. So, but anyway, I figured all that out pretty quick. So anyway, I had to go through the tunnels to get over to Manhattan where they were going to film this thing, and it blew me away. I never been on a TV show before, I had no idea how it worked, but, and didn't know what to expect, but, I just knew I was in a competition, and I called up my buddy, Luke Ray from Old Hickory, and I was like, man, I got this competition coming up, and man, they dropped me off a smoker right here in front of my house, and I took it to New York and won it.
Awesome.
And to come to find out, the smoker that I had that I didn't know. All right, this is pretty cool. I put in the back of we strapped it in, put it in the back of my rig, and I took off with it, CTO, and we're going to go cook in this competition. Never been fired up before. All right, never cooked in this thing before. And I was like, man, I got to haul this thing up there. And we got to strap this down to the wall in this trailer, and all that. And so I get up there and we cook in it, do the competition, just do great, win this thing. And then it's Tuffy Stone's smoker. Okay. And Mr. Houston is there. He's one of the judges, which is friends of Tuffy. Yeah. And he takes it to him. We load it in the back of his truck out of my trailer, and he takes that smoker to Tuffy.
Nice.
And so I got to cook on Tuffy's smoker before he ever cooked on it, and won a competition on it right out of the gate.
They were calling. It's like, it's like dating a girl before you marry her. It's like I dated her before you guys got married.
Yeah, I told him at the Jack when he was at the Jack, the year before. But yeah,
is that just the trend? Everybody helps Tuffy out because on the show too. Did a Myron bail him out with a brisket?
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember that, but I'm pretty sure. So,
but I told him, I was like, man, that smoker was. Hey, I appreciate it. I was like, I wasn't allowed to tell anybody what was going on, but Tuffy knew in the background what was happening.
Yeah. So, so you won that. Well, how'd that feel?
Man, it was just, it was, we stayed up all night. They kept us up all night. There was, you didn't get any sleep. You just had to rock it out. And the timeline, we had to build 6 plates. Okay. And, on the first one we had to build, I don't know, we had lobster tails and and a T-bone steak, you know, and I'm cooking on a PK. Okay, I got to grill. I got to cook all this. I mean, how big is the surface space a PK's got? It's not set up for cooking 6 T-bones, you know, and 6 lobsters and 6 ears of corn. Okay, so my first thought was I didn't realize that I was going to have to cook 6 plates, you know, and I was like, I've got to build 6 here, and I've got to do all this in 30 minutes. Okay, I've got to cook everything. I got to build the sauce. I've got to cook the lobster tails. I've got to build a side and all of this. But it was more than this. Okay, I couldn't bring my favorite seasoning that I wanted to put on my products. Okay, so I use Tennessee Thunder on everything. It's a product that I use on everything that I sell at the restaurant, and I use in competition. It's so I had to build all of those seasonings on top of, you know, building the, you know, you just couldn't go grab what you wanted. So I had to mix all the seasonings up on before I used them, all in that 30 minutes. So any kind of sauce that you wanted, you had to build that sauce. You know, my barbecue sauce, I've got a sauce called the drama sauce that does really well on the competition trail. A lot of people use it and are successful with it, but I had to build that sauce before I used it on my ribs in that competition. You know,
yeah.
They didn't let you bring anything like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, and then right in the middle of this competition, they throw us a curveball. We know we've got to cook brisket. We know we've got to cook. You know, the first run was the hot and fast. Okay, and that was the steaks, the lobsters, and all that. So we go through that. We do that, and one's eliminated. So now it's down to 3. There's 3 of us in the low and slow. So we go through the low and slow. We're doing our deal, and we got our briskets going, and you know we're prepping ribs and all of our sides and all this kind of stuff that we got going on. And then like 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, they go, all right, here's your next one, and they bring this truck out, and they've got a truck of stuff to build a pit with. Okay, and you've got to build your own pit. And or whatever you're going to cook with. And I'm thinking, all right, let's do this, whatever we got to do. And we got to cook chicken. All right. So now it's chicken. So there's concrete blocks in the back of this thing, separated metal, you know, everything to build all these pits with. And I look over there and there's a garbage can lid. And I'm like, dude, I'm in on that. I can cook on a garbage can lid. I'm down with that. So it's simple. It's quick, you know. All right, they were jacking with my stuff. Somebody while I was away opened the pit. Okay, opened the firebox on the pit. Somebody in whatever, a ghost come through, whatever, and opened my pit. So it was cranked up to like 300. It already timed out, you know. They go out at 300 degrees. So I had to cool it off and do all this stuff when I got back. You know, they were screwing with me.
It's for dramatic effect.
Yeah, for TV.
Yeah, oh yeah,
for the TV.
trying to stress level, trying to raise it up on you know.
Right.
So anyway, I get the chicken and I put it over to the side, and they all start fighting to build. You know, one's building it out of flower pots, and Logan is, and I don't even know. She's building one out of something out of concrete blocks, you know. And I just grab a garbage can lid, and I see 2 bags of lava rocks, and I grab those and I walk off, and I'm like, okay. So, and I just set it down to the side because I had to get that firebox going. There were so many, it was right in the timeline where I needed to stay on track. That was my major focus. I didn't fall off to start building this pit. Okay. I stayed on my timelines that I initially started. So that's what I knew I had to commit to, because I couldn't ruin everything else just because they threw me this curveball. I had to keep everything else, and it was time for everything to happen, you know. So anyway, I got all those built, and they kept going, are you going to build this pit? And are you going to do whatever? And I'm like, no, man, I don't need to do this. We're cooking chicken here. So long story short, I took 2 skillets. I took my great grandmother's old cast iron Dutch oven, and I took my other grandmother's number 8 Lodge black iron skillet, and I thought, you never know when you're going to have to use these. You know, you just don't. You know, in a competition. So I ended up pulling that Dutch oven out, putting some oil in it, and what we do, we're from Kentucky, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah. So I took, I didn't have anything. I usually soak my chicken in buttermilk and do all this kind of stuff. So I didn't have any of that. I had some cream, and then I had a little bit of vinegar. So I threw some cream down, put some vinegar in there, spun it out, and just packed that chicken in there. Basically made sour cream and just soaked it to try to tenderize that chicken as much as I could. And then I pulled it out and I seasoned it up real well and put it in there, put the flour on it. And I dropped 2 charcoal chimneys of coals down in that garbage can lid and balanced that handle in that lava rock and slid that cast iron skillet down there and got my grease at the temperature I wanted. And man, I'd pull it off and put it back on and pull it off and put it back on and cook that chicken in about 15 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, who doesn't like fried chicken?
Right. Like literally nobody. Yeah. You know who doesn't like fried chicken, Dewayne?
Oh, I can take a guess.
Yeah.
Communists.
There it is.
Yeah, I pick up pretty quick.
It's new to this episode, so maybe we'll see. We'll have to see how that goes.
There you go.
But
well, you know when it started.
That was pretty crazy. I mean, you were probably super tired. Did they literally keep you up the whole time, and even during the announcement
they
stuff?
act like we got to go. All right. This is one thing. Number one, a guy from Kentucky is not going to sleep in New York City, okay, or in the suburbs of New York, or whatever. But there's buildings everywhere, and there's one farm there, and it's the Queens County Farm. I think that's what it's called. There's one little farm tract, maybe 50 acres in the middle of, concrete. And so, you're hearing fire trucks and police cars going off just all the time, and from where I'm from, you don't hear it. It's dark here. You come to where I live, we're in the country. Okay. Yeah. So, but they send us over there acting like we get a little while to sleep. That just didn't happen. So,
right.
I went over there. They gave me the chickens. I had to have 6 pieces. So, I had 3 chickens. Guess what I did? The legs. I took the legs off of them. I cooked chicken legs. That was, I just separated. I guess 3 whole chickens. I didn't want to have to deal with the chicken breast. I don't want to have to deal with all that. Just and go back, cut the joints, pull the skin back out, and we get it where I wanted it, and turned in a chicken leg, and concentrated on what I was doing with my ribs, And there was one thing that they didn't show on this competition that I do to my ribs that kind of trick them out sometimes. And they made me film this like 2 other times. They stopped the clock and everything, made me do this because they caught me doing it. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing? And they had 1 camera on me. And then they pulled these other 3 cameras in on me and make me do it again, start all over. I took these, these Werther's original candies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took those, put them in a spice grinder, and I ground them, made a powder out of them, put them in a shaker, and shook them over the top of my ribs and built that crunchy little glaze on top of my ribs as I was finishing them off. And they were like, man, we've never seen that before. So they had to stop and redo it, and I had to redo it again, and go back. And yeah, so that was pretty, and I expected it to come on, to be on TV, and everybody would be like, man, we got to get some candy and start, putting candy on these ribs. But, it's a little thing that you never think about, but try it sometime. You might like it.
Right. It sounds awesome.
That sounds amazing.
For competition, we put maple syrup on ours, and so that's not a big departure. So,
right. Well, do you like creme brulee?
Of course. Yep. I love it. Oh,
you
absolutely.
You like that little crunch?
Oh, yes.
You like that little glaze, that little crunch when you bite through it?
Yes.
Well, think about doing that with a Werther's original.
That sounds awesome.
Setting that slick finish on top, shiny, slick, little crunch, and then you bite into the sauce, and then into the crunch of the rib. It's a good deal. It works out pretty good.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, it does. We're gonna start seeing that all over social media now. You heard it here first, folks.
We're gonna get messages. Look out, man! Werther's original. I did it. Well, yeah. So, are they gonna do that again? Do you think that show?
What's that? That show? I had heard that they were going to do another, they were going to do like 3 or 4 of them and then bring the winners together and, and do another one. But, I really don't know. I honestly don't know. I know that we were going to do a show down in, what do you call it? Down in Birmingham, Alabama. But it never did happen. All the COVID stuff messed everything up, and it just never did happen. And then I heard that they quit shooting in New York because everything got crazy up there, and started shooting in New Jersey. And so I don't know. All this COVID hit, and who knows what's happening.
Right.
But I don't know. But I just. I'm ready for whatever. They said there was going to be another one. They were going to get some other guys, and they were like, is there anybody that you don't want to cook against? And I'm like, it really doesn't make any difference to me. I really don't care. When you're cooking that kind of competition, I feel pretty good about that, because you're not just being judged with your meats. You're in my ballpark now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My competition for me every day is the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to make people happy every day. And the difference between a competition and a restaurant, one example that I can give you is that if I cook a competition rib and I serve it at my restaurant, my customers are going to think he doesn't know what he's doing around here. Okay. They're going to bite into that and go, man, this cat I don't want his ribs, I'll eat his pork or something. But if I give what I sell in the restaurant and I turn in on the competition, they're going to go, man, this cat don't know what he's doing in the competition. You see what I'm saying? So there's a competition rib that I don't want to serve in my restaurant. Okay. I get one bite in a competition, if I'm lucky, I might get 2, but in a restaurant, I want that bone. If it doesn't fall off the bone, there's a problem around here.
Right.
Where I'm from. It's kind of like chicken. If you get it and it's not fried around here, we got a problem.
Like, what is this? That's the skin. I know it's the skin, but it's floppy.
That's right. It's got to be crunchy. That's right.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Hopefully they get that done again. And you know what? I think they're tricking you, Dewayne. I think what they're saying is you're going to tell them who you don't want to cook against, and they're going to get those people. So you should find some people who you can beat, and be like, well,
I don't know.
My neighbor Phil, this kid at my daughter's school.
If you're going to win something, hey, get the best that you can get there. Let's bring it down. I don't want to bring in somebody that's got I want to beat somebody.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. If you're going to win something that you're proud of. Beat somebody.
Right.
So the way I look at that is, not everybody comes from the same background. There's a lot of barbecue guys out there that I really would not want to cook against. Because if I was cooking what they're used to cooking. But if you add on everything else where you're building a meal, well, maybe maybe I could get in that wrestling match with them a little bit. Right. Because, maybe they're not used to doing. And I may tell you something about that competition and these timelines. When they're crunching you down and they're putting restrictions on all your timelines and they're throwing you for loops here and there and the other, if you're one of those guys that you're going to just melt down because this, and this doesn't happen exactly, and you don't know how to get around it and finish it to, a certain way, or if you don't know how to build your sauces, if you don't know how to build your spices, and you're dependent on somebody else to do that part for you, then you're going to be in trouble in those kind of competitions, because it's just not, hey, let me get something that somebody else makes and I'm going to use this product on here. That's not what it's about. You've got to build every single ingredient as you go, and that separates the men from the boys. Mm-hmm. When you can do it all, I think.
100%.
And it seems like in a lot of these competitions, you're cooking against these guys that have a lot of buttons on their shirts, a lot of chefs. Okay. and they know what they're doing. And so these barbecue guys really have to know what they're doing. That's the reason Tuffy's, he's been trained. He's tough. A lot of these guys are stepping their game up and knowing what some of these chefs know, plus what they've learned from these old school guys, and that's when they get dangerous, That's when they're really good, and what that competition did for me is it allows me to get into the World Food Challenge. So I'm going to be in the World Food Challenge in November, and that's the first time that I've been in there, but I've got some friends that have competed in that,
Are you doing barbecue in that?
No. Everyone told me I didn't need to go barbecue in that. They told me I needed to go sandwich. So because I can be so more, I can do so many more things, with it. And we build a lot of good sandwiches at the restaurant. And I love doing sandwiches. So it opens me up to be creative and do some fun things. And man, I'm telling you, that's what I'm 100% focused on going forward is I'm going for that World Food Challenge. I want to win that thing.
Dude, plus, that's a lot of money.
It's $100,000 purse.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's $100,000.
Well, you're gonna have to be my barbecue, Dewayne, that day, and I'm gonna bring it back. Yep, we're gonna be the second one to win in barbecue competitions. And there's only been one, I believe, that won barbecue, so that'll be us, the second. Maybe I'll make a barbecue sandwich. It'll be you and me.
There you go. But,
so what?
What I just want to when it's competition, I don't care if it's thumb wrestling or whatever. I don't want to lose. All right. Same. It's not so much that I really enjoy winning as much as I really hate to lose. I think. Yep. It's just I'm not good with. I'm not going to act like an idiot, but on the inside, I'm melting down.
Some deal with it worse than others. Our chicken guy Chad, he when he doesn't do well in chicken, it's a long drive home. We did really bad in chicken at the Invitational, and it was all a drive to Kansas City from here is like what 15, 16 hours. Man, that dude was a long ride home. It was a long ride home. So let's talk about what's going on with you in the future. What can we look forward to in your world?
Well, I think it's a responsibility that I've been given. Mike Mills introduced me to Memphis in May. Okay. He introduced me to that sport, to that competition, and brought me in on his team and gave me a huge responsibility on his team. And we walked the stage 5 times out of 6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
We were in the top 10 and we never got to win that competition. And it's my focus to in the future to win that competition. I mean, I want to do it for Mike. I want to do it for Pat. I want to do it for everyone that's helped me, to get where I've been. And if all this clears up and we get to compete again, and who knows, I don't know if they're going to have it, I guess Tom Lee Park's out. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I would love to win that competition because it meant so much to Mike. Mm-hmm. I'd love to do that. I hope I get to judge the Jack on, through the years. I really enjoy doing that every year. I look forward to that every year. It's just so exciting to see all your buddies there, and I mean, it's just a family event, and there's alcohol involved and friends, and it's just something I love to do.
Right? Yeah.
And but and then with the restaurant, I hope to looking for the future on that. We've had so many people that have texted me, sends me messages, and nearly every day. When are you going to open your restaurant back up? When are you going to open your restaurant back up? And I tell them it's kind of simple, and some of them have really got upset with me because I haven't tried to open my restaurant. And I'm like, do you not think that I want to do,
right.
business like as usual? I want to do, but they think that I'm holding back because I don't know what they're thinking. I'm not getting money from the government,
Mm-hmm.
But what I want, I'm going to open it back and we're going to blow the roof off of that thing when we get 100%, when we're allowed to do it safely at 100%. Not just when they release us to be open at 100%. When I feel it's safe for my staff, and I feel like it's safe for the people to do. If you could see our restaurant when it's rocking, Stevie Ray Vaughan wrote that song for Rib Lickers. When the house is a rocking, don't bother knocking. Right? Because we don't really have a front door. We got a place that you come through, but it's like you walk in all over and people's all over the place, and the vibe is just so exciting. When you walk into the place and you see that many people having a good time, you know, future for me is just blowing the roof off of Rib Lickers and blowing it out and having fun and back to, you know, doing business like we were doing and having fun again, you know, and having some great. I love the live music. You know, I love you know, it's a part of our community. You know, there's so many musicians around here, and we got so many great musicians that we can pull from Nashville and everywhere else. It's just something that everyone misses so much, you know. So that's pretty much it. You know, getting business back going on that. I plan on in 2022. Hopefully, if everything goes as planned, and we don't know how all this COVID stuff's going to act, but we're going to do some things, and we're throwing together an all-star team for Memphis in May like no other. I've got some bad boys. You know, there's always been these teams that you've been able to, you know, this or that in the basketball and this and that and the football, whatever. But I tell you what, I've got a rock star team that's wanting to go kick some major barbecue butt in Memphis in May in 2022. So,
nice, man. Yeah.
We're going to try to make sure everybody knows we're there anyway. What's that?
If you need a rock star dishwasher, let me know.
We need those. We gotta have those.
I'll tell you this. In my resume, I have some very important people telling you that I could take garbage out like they've never seen anyone take garbage out before.
Yeah.
So, fast, efficient, friendly. It's like the garbage. It just you know. It's not, you don't have to worry about it.
There you go.
Well, hey, man.
Who knows? You may be getting that call.
Let me know. Well, you know, we appreciate your time, Dewayne. It's been an honor to talk to you. Rib Lickers is something we've heard about all the way here in Utah, and what you're doing is awesome. Awesome. You know, and I love the traditions that you're holding, and you know, you're just a good guy in barbecue. I see your Facebook posts, and you're asking out there if people need some help, you know, and you're actively searching for these people and doing what makes barbecue great. And we do appreciate you as a human, and coming on the show. And guys, BBQBroker.com, if you want to pick up some of those rubs and anything you need from him is there. Some of the stuff that you use at home, you can buy from there as well. From all over different companies. And then go to Rib Lickers, man, Glasgow, Kentucky. If you're ever in there, get some takeout, you know, on your way through. And hopefully when they open up, you can go and see what's up. I can't wait to go out. It'd be great.
You know, it's all the music that we do there. It's all free to the public all the time. You know, we don't ever charge anyone to come in, and we got some great bands, and a lot of people, they'll do a 3-day event. They'll go tour the Corvette plant. They'll come and eat with us on a Thursday, and then they'll do it on a Friday and Saturday, because we got different bands that run all the time. So
awesome.
It's, you know, you got Mammoth Cave there close. We got the Bourbon Trails right in our back door, you know? So yeah. And then the lake's right in our back door too. So it's a hot spot. It's fun place to go.
Awesome, man.
Heck yeah.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time, and you know, hopefully we'll get you on the podcast down the road and see how things are going.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dewayne.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.